here's the general one. They must be above reproach. That doesn't mean perfect, right? They need to have a good reputation in the church and in the community. Actually, I agree with those who say what is said here about elders is something that should be true of all Christians. This is not like a super duper high standard. They should be, well, obviously this doesn't apply to women. The husband of one wife, right? Now, I'm not revisiting the issue whether women should be elders, since we talked about that in 1 Timothy 2 already. But this phrase is very debated. So, and it's extremely hard to decipher what Paul means. I'm going to, let me just run down here. Do I have it in here? Maybe I do. So you want to read these notes because I won't be able to talk about all of them. Maybe I didn't list this here. I'll just put it in here for now. So, one view is it's against remarriage after the death of a wife. So that's one view. That is a view that was there in the early church. Husband and one wife, if your wife dies, you can't marry again. That's a very interesting view. Of course, the New Testament elsewhere permits such, so I think this view is unlikely. Another view is this is against polygamy. Having more than one wife. I think the problem with that, though, is the parallel in 1 Timothy 5:9, where it says a widow who's to be put on the list should be the wife of one husband. The very same exact expression, but now flipped, talking about the woman instead of the man, right? And here's the issue. Polyandry was unknown, virtually. That is, a wife having many husbands. So the Greek expression, so many people argue, by the way, this is about polygamy, and I do think polygamy is eliminated by husband or one wife, certainly. But is he mainly thinking of polygamy? It seems unlikely given the Greek expression, since it's also used of a wife's relationship to her husband. And no one reads that as saying, well, it's eliminating polyandry when we're talking about the wife, right? So the last two views are the most common, against divorce and remarriage. So this view, many hold this view, and I don't hold this view, but I think it's certainly possible. And there's a lot of good arguments for it. Clearly, you could argue leaders, even if it's a legitimate divorce and remarriage, you could say that for leaders there's a higher standard. And that could certainly be true. And of course some say all remarriage after divorce is sin. Now, notice this view isn't all divorce is sin, because sometimes you don't have a choice, right, whether to get divorced. But remarriage, according to this view, is sin. But I've already told you I don't hold this view. So I think what it means is having a faithful and well-regarded marriage. So, the fundamental requirement is that you're without reproach. So both in the church and in the community, your marriage, if you're married, maybe I should pause and say something here. I think some people read these lists very rigidly. And I totally disagree with those kind of readings. By which I mean very rigidly. They say, well, you have to be married. And you have to have kids to be an elder. I think that's a wrong way of reading this list. I think Paul puts down quick bullet points of what's normally true of people and says, here are the character qualities. I think it's very unlikely that Paul thought he couldn't be an elder. I think that's kind of a strange idea. So that kind of rigid approach, and maybe I've run across it. They'll say, "Oh, that guy doesn't have kids, even if he's married." Well, I don't think that's a Paul marriage at all. So that's another issue. But the issue for me is a one-woman man or a one-man-woman, depending on what we're talking about, is having a faithful and well-regarded marriage in the church and in the community. Obviously, if someone's been divorced and remarried, their new marriage has to have existed, at least in my reading, for a number of years to establish that kind of credibility. But I think there are scenarios where that's permissible. Every church has to judge. I mean, they do anyway. I'll tell you one story of a student I had. So he is pastor now. He is divorced and remarried and has kids. He got married years ago. His wife, this seems extremely improbable, but on the day she was married, his wife, the very day they were married, she connected with an old friend. And when she connected with the old friend she connected with was in the Wicca. You know what that is? So it's a form of paganism, right? She connected in the Wicca, and his wife almost immediately was very unfaithful. A myriad affairs. So they ended up getting divorced. They were very young, probably in their early 20s. 5 or 6 years later, he married another woman, I think legitimately. And they had children. Maybe 10 years after that, he became a pastor, after maybe being married 15 years or so. Well, I'm not studying dates, I'm just saying, I think that plenty of years passed for the community to recognize, yeah, he's a faithful husband, and he has a good marriage, and his church, which is a very strong evangelical church, they had no problem with it. They knew him from almost the time he'd become a Christian, so they were happy. That's just one example. Of course, you have to look at every case by case. I don't just blithely accept anybody as an elder. You have to look at every case, but I'm not persuaded that people who say if you're divorced and remarried, you're automatically thrown out. I think it matters if it happened. Not everybody agrees with this. I think it matters if it happened before you were a Christian. Here's a parallel I would draw, and then I'm really out of time and happy to pick it up next time. But I think it's interesting that Paul says, not an excessive drinker, not a drunkard. Ever? Ever? You ever got drunk? You're out? Nobody interprets it that way that I know. Right? He means now you have a good reputation, what we would say with alcohol and drugs, for years. You're steady in that area. I don't think we look back and say, did you get drunk when you were 17? Out you go. You used drugs once? Bye. I don't think that's what it means. I think it means are you steady and faithful in that area of your life? Have you been steady and faithful for a number of years, and so that we can trust you as a leader? And I think the same is true in a marriage. So in my view, there's great people I respect that disagree with me. In my view, sometimes it's read a bit legalistically, though, too rigidly. Well, I actually have an appointment at 4, but if you want to come up and talk to me a little bit, I have a few minutes. I'm happy to chat. And if you have a question,